The historical or religious significance is there, but how are you actually translating that love for Masjid Aqsa to practical actions? That's the question. You're not doing enough for that. So isn't that hypocrisy? First, let's establish that, Mr. Rana.
Before going to that particular question, let me give you a very brief historical background. The Ottoman Empire was ruling over three continents. It was divided into, after the World War I, all those countries, all those regions which were part of the Ottoman Empire, all those cities, I emphasize cities, were divided and made into countries. That was a part and parcel of the West strategy. I think by and large they have turned out to be very successful. Territorial integrity on ethnic ground, on Arabism, and when you look at a broader picture within the teaching of Islam, that is called shirk. If you make any discrimination, distinction among the Muslims on the basis of race, on the basis of territory. So that's a background. Now in a broader picture, the question that you have raised is very important. We have institutionalized hypocrisy. It's not a question of that we are not hypocrite. We are a hypocrite of highest order. And let me explain it how. The biggest threat for the Arab countries is not Israel. I mean, their rulers, what they perceive. No, it is the Hamas. They are in league with the Israel. This is a bitter truth. They are very scared of Hamas. They consider Hamas, and understandably, as a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood has its organizations. Some of them are working secretly in Arab countries. So Arab rulers feel threatened. If Hamas gains in the occupied Palestinian territory, that means that would set an example, a model. And that it was on October 7th. What happened was unprecedented. Israel never ever suffered that huge scale of attack. And even in 1967, they lost. All Arab countries failed to what Hamas did on October 7th. That nation, Palestinian, had a self-respect.
True.
And even what US Defense Secretary of State said, that Israel faces strategic defeat. What does it mean? If Hamas survives, I'm not talking about that if Hamas wins. If Hamas survives, it is the strategic
failure of Israel,
and defeat to Israel.
Yes.
That is a problem. Now they are trying to eliminate not Hamas, but the future recruitment of Hamas. Going by what the apartheid states Prime Minister Netanyahu said, and other leaders said, they are giving biblical references to justify the killing of the children.
Yeah, they do.
They will grow up, they will become fighters, soldiers of Hamas, kill them, depopulate the Gaza. And there is a method in this madness. They are not trying to eliminate Hamas. They are basically pursuing their theological agenda. They have, the cover of a secular state. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. That's a complete nonsense. They are trying to make fool us. That is in a broader picture. I think those countries, those cities which were made countries, they are not meant to unite Muslims.
And I will have a question with Dr. Rana also. If
he's not a doctor.
You are like doctors and more than doctors.
Okay.
I am doctor. The question is, can I ask question?
Yeah, sure.
Because this is open forum.
Yes.
So you said Hamas did best. Our Islam has rules about jihad. If you have 50% power, at least, to fight with the enemies, then you are allowed to do jihad. I am not telling about myself. This is from Imam Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i, Malik, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, great Imams, Imam Bukhari. They didn't do jihad without preparation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained in Surah Tawbah, this is Surah of Jihad, وَعِدُّ لَهُمْ مَسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ. Prepare any kind of power against your enemies. Prepare. If you are not well prepared, you are striking missile 500 or 5,000 missile. Now what is happening? You are looking and begging for peace pact, but they are not being convinced by Arab countries, by US and by UK and France and other developed countries. This is my open question.
Right, Dr. Rana.
I'm not
Because he called you doctor, so I'm referring to you. He said you are more than a doctor. I don't know what that
I'm
means.
taking benefit of freedom of this studio.
Point
Go on.
is, Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our greatest last prophet, he did order insurgent attacks against the infidels
Yeah.
in the Arabian Sea.
Yeah.
So, because at that particular point of time they didn't have the power. So what Hamas did, it was an insurgent attack. So let's not confuse the jurisprudence and the factual realities. OIC could have done a lot.
Yeah.
They could have blocked Israel's some kind of economic blockage. That did not happen. It's a lack of will. There is a method in the madness. Behind the scene, our Arab rulers are in league with Israel. I have to repeat it. Reason being is the biggest threat to them is Hamas and another. And then they also feel that Iran would exploit the situation. There is also a sectarian angle. More than sectarian angle, it's a political
internal
part.
divisions definitely
so
have
in
taken
that
over.
context, I think we have to see a bigger picture.
We'll take one more question. Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Jamshed Imdad. I have a question for Rana sir. Sir, if what the entire world had recognized Israel at the beginning, so they would have a determined border and a boundary. So what do you think if they had at the first their determined border, will they able to do this type of Palestinian genocide?
Well, I think the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has been working for decades on one plan to make it sure that there is no two-state solution. It's quite clear. So they want Palestinians to be there subservient. They have said it. They are human animals. So they would never be given equal rights as a citizen. The other part of your question was?
If they had recognized...
If they had a recognized border or boundary.
The reason is, Israel projected itself that it is a country which has an edge in IT. It is a country which has an edge in the weaponry. So you recognize us, forget about Palestine, we'll provide you the latest weapons, we'll provide you the latest technology in agriculture and everything. On October 7, Hamas fighters and their IT wing frozen over 3,000 their security cameras on the border. They were deep inside and they froze their internet system. This was a case of the technology of apartheid state. Reason is, you need a determination, a mind to operate in a given situation. If you don't have a will, you will just nurture one thing, fear and fear.
Okay.
And let me pick up something positive. Israel has lost a war of narrative all over the world. Jews all over the world, they have faced more than 400 violent attacks. Public opinion in the West has changed altogether. That is their victory. It means the Jewish lobby is in a shambles now in the US. The public opinion is going to come down very hard on them.
First question is, Sir mentioned, Sir Rana, is Arab countries are receiving Hamas as a threat. So why it is so? And the second question is, if we see this suffering of Muslims, not only in Gaza, but all over the world, in Afghanistan and else parts of Middle East. So what is the reason? Why is Islam or Muslim the issue everywhere? So I want the answer.
Yes. The key reason that the Muslims are perceived to be threat by the West, the reason being is that the Ottoman Empire, and before that all other Islamic empires, they ruled over them. And for centuries, for 13 centuries, long centuries, the longest period of time in the history, I believe. They have ruled over them. And when there was attack on the Turkey in the First World War in 1913, they made it sure that the country is de-Islamized. They removed the hijab, prohibited it. The reason being was that, and then since it was spreading in the 3 continents, it was shrunk into just one country. And all these countries, which were once a part of that 13 years long Muslim empire, they were made separate countries. Cities were made separate countries. So I think now the West feels threatened that if Muslims are allowed to go to enforce political Islam, that means the economic structure they have built over the period of time, based on interest, it will be all over. So the only, I think, if you will look at a broader picture, something which has gone against the Western interest, 2 things have happened. Taliban, they defeated NATO and other countries, along with 57, more than 50 countries were defeated in Afghanistan in a very disgraceful manner. And you remember the Soviet Union, they were defeated. What does that mean? That means the Islam, since was prohibited in the Central Asian states, Islam was revived because of Afghan jihad. Now, when the Taliban came here, returned to, they were in power, what was happening? Their judicial system was spreading in Pakistan, in the northwest, in the southwest, Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So they felt threatened that this would spread. Something they eliminated after World War I, they thought that it would be revived. And if it is revived, that would have been the biggest threat to the political structure, to the economic structure of the West. Therefore, they would allow you so-called freedom of expression at a limited scale. Don't talk about their political system. Then you are a terrorist.
Right. I know I have run out of time, but you have been insisting. One last question, but very brief question, and please, very brief answer. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Adnan Khan from Comstate University, Islamabad. This Palestinian crisis, it has exposed a lot, many things. One, the self-portrayal of the Western society, which, the image that they built, that they are the defenders of humanity. They're not more. Two, we as a nation, we as a state has failed to support the Palestinian cause, and I'm talking about the whole Muslim Ummah in that case. All the Muslim states have failed to support the Palestinian cause. But we as a nation did not, I think. Why? My question is, why not the media and the academia? Why they failed to, to play their role in terms of, making awareness and propagating, the real situation. For example, exposing the Western role instead of, reporting the casualties that has been, happened in Gaza every night. Instead of reporting that, why do we fail to come up with, proper intellectual dialogue and intellectual debate in academia, at universities, and at the media as well?
Any one of you who wants to answer? Anam, Dr.
I think this is only one exception. I'm seeing this program. I don't see any other program.
Thank you.
This is the only one exception.
Thank you.
That is because, the reason being is that we are so much in grip of our political issues. Let's not get into those issues. That we don't think about a bigger picture which is developing. The US imperialism is a dying down. No more it's a superpower. It is one of the great power along with Russia and China.
Yeah.
We still believe it's a superpower. That slavery lies deep in our mind. We need to get rid of it and identify who are we, what do we stand for, and that is what Islam is, Islam's political system. Last point I want to make. We have virtually suspended those provisions of the Constitution which talks about ending the interest-based economy, which talks about ending every law which is against the Quran and Sharia. Because we have institutionalized hypocrisy in our system, even we don't talk about it. You will listen all those constitutional provisions which talks about the political interest of our elite. growing tide of anti-Israel sentiments. What you see behind me is just tip of the iceberg of what is happening in the country. More than half of $52 billion black CIA budget is spent on espionage network in Pakistan. How would you handle it?
The US has looked upon Pakistan as an ally at one point and then as an enemy at the same time.
That is going to be the first legal reason on the basis of which he is going to be instantly ousted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Joining us live, Javed Rana, who's an expert on politics and geostrategic issues.
In the world politics, which is not being driven by any moral principle, it is being driven by the hard geostrategic realities. In a broader picture, more countries would aspire to have nuclear weapons.